The Morgan Report with David Morgan.
David Morgan with the weekly perspective for the week ending 12 August 2022. Well, first, before I start, I want to run down what's been going on with the complex, the base and precious metals so far this year. And almost everything in the base metal side is off. Aluminum's down 12%, cobalt 33%, copper's off 17%, lead's down 6%, nickel is up 11%, tin is down 37%, and zinc is flat or up perhaps 1%. Gold in U.S. terms is off 1%. Palladium is up 17% from the beginning of the year. Platinum is flat, and silver is off 10%. And of course, the gold-silver ratio continues. Well, it's starting to fall back, but got as high as 89 to 1, and it's now currently lower than that, moving towards silver's favor at this point in time. The HUI is off 17%, the XAU is off 15%, and the US dollar is up 10%. Let's start with gold. This is the gold weekly forecast from FX Street. And the title, Next Direction Depends on September Fed Hike Bets. Almost all of us have been saying the same thing, meaning all of us in the gold-silver community, that if the Fed pauses or decides to reverse, we will probably see gold take off. And I am pretty much in that camp, but regardless of what goes on from here, we're near what is well known as the end game. And in the end game, the only thing left standing in times past have been real assets, and particularly on the money side, precious metals. So that's my larger view, regardless of what the Fed does in September. Definitely an article I like from Chris Vermeulen, who I've known for some time, does great work. Gold to silver ratio heading lower, set up as like 1989 to 2003. Highly recommend you read this article on Kitco. I don't know why it's so large on my screen, but he makes a good case, does good technical work. And for those silver bulls out there, it's not time to despair. It's time to basically trade a ratio. You can swap gold into silver at this time, or if you're really gold only, you should buy silver and then swap it into gold later. I gave that update to the Money Show recently. It was earlier this week. And I'd done that once before in Vancouver, one of the first speeches I ever made at the Vancouver Resource Investment Conference, talking about how undervalued silver was to gold, but how undervalued gold was. So gold was undervalued versus equities, for example, and yet silver's undervalued relative to gold. So a good play, if you are able to absorb the risk, is to buy silver with the idea of trading in gold when the ratio is more favorable. This article is from Bullion Vault. Big inflation miss sees gold price spike versus plunging dollar as rate hike bets. This is a one-day article. It was on Wednesday of this week. And, of course, it's true, but we've really seen gold kind of stay near the $1,800 level. It looks like it's got some pretty good resistance at that level, at least for the time being. But what's interesting is the amount of gold that has been drained off the COMEX, and silver as well. And there are many out there in Twitterville and other areas that are reporting this. And of course, it's all fact. There's someone or something out there buying physical gold off of the COMEX and taking it off of the COMEX. Again, another article from FX Street. Silver and palladium broke up. Will gold follow? And it will. Certainly, silver has not done the performance that gold has, as I said earlier when I started. Gold is basically flat or up 1% in U.S. dollar terms, and silver is off substantially. However, the ratio has peaked, and silver is starting to outperform. And again, that's why I indicated a swap or that idea. However, this is a pretty good article, how silver managed to break the 50-day moving average and is fairly effective. We're over 20. And I gave an interview with Finance and Liberty 2 days ago, indicating that we could be on the cusp of moving higher. I think 22 is probably going to stall out the amount of resistance and stale longs that would say, all right, I'm back even, or 22 is enough, or traded at 19 to 22 and took a $3 profit on a leverage position or what have you. Nonetheless, we are going much higher over the longer term. And, of course, the big news that so many in the silver and gold community are looking at are This trial that's been going on for some time, this is what CNBC had to say about it. 2 former JPM.Morgan metals traders found guilty in landmark spoofing case. And it goes on in the details, talks about who they were, and 13 counts on one and 11 on the other. 2 former JPMorgan Chase employees found guilty on some charges in the landmark trial over futures market manipulation on Wednesday, while a 3rd former trader was acquitted entirely. And if you want to go into this more, I think you should. I think you should read the whole article. Jeffrey Christian of CPM Group kind of broke everything down. I don't agree with everything that Jeff said, but I certainly can't argue the facts. The whole Rico thing had no merit whatsoever, according to the verdict. And Jeff went on to explain spoofing, which I would maybe have a different opinion, not what the facts are about spoofing, but what the results are. I think we see it differently. But I'm old enough to know 2 people can see exactly the same thing and see it differently. So let me move on from there. Some will consider this a win, some a loss, some a ho-hum. My take before it started, once it was announced, was there would probably be some hand slapping, but I didn't expect to see anything significant. And that's basically the way I read this article. Moving on to the physical market, the LBMA silver inventories fall to a near 6-year low, below 1 billion ounces, again from one of the best guys in the industry, in my opinion, and that's Ronan Manley. Ronan, thank you again for your work. You should definitely read this article. One trend in the precious metals markets, which is yet to get widespread coverage but deserves more attention, is the plummeting inventories of physical silver in the London vaults. And here's a graph that shows you what's going on. Of course, it's coming out the COMEX as well. And I just started following a gentleman on Twitter, and I forget his handle, but you can get it from my Twitter feed at SilverGuru22. And he puts together both the LBMA and the COMEX combined and shows you what the amount of ounces are. And if you combine them, it's a significant drop-off as well, which I think is a good way to look at it. A lot of people in the U.S. think COMEX only, but the LBMA has a significant amount of physical. So let me just shout out to him. Sorry, I can't remember your handle. All right, here's the chart I just referred to, and let me get it. It is Mike Say 98. That is the Twitter handle, at Mike Say 98. And here you can see where the silver squeeze began. See the inventories of both the LBMA and COMEX, pretty much level. And then just going back a few months, it's really started to taper off. And I'll finish this weekly perspective with this article from the Washington Post. Is sustainable mining possible? The EV, electric vehicle revolution, depends upon it. Definitely should read this no matter where you are on the climate change, environment, ESG, mining, whatever. Really need to look at this well-written article about the sustainability and how much impact going electric vehicles will cause on how much mining. If you think those that are anti-mining or concerned, and I'm concerned about the way it's been done in the past, but depending on which jurisdiction you're in, it's very well known how to reclaim a mine and get rid of any issues, primarily in North America. But there are other jurisdictions to this day that really don't have any environmental impact statements or any rules that they have to abide by, which of course means it can mine at a lower cost. So besides all that, this article talks about how much it will take in resources and what the thinking behind extracting, primarily in this article, the amount of nickel required and what it entails. And it's just not as environmentally friendly as you might consider. And then if you do any study whatsoever at a cursory level on the energy equation from either my friend Steve St. Angelo or others, but the energy required to get energy out and how much hydrocarbons are used to mine, transport, etc. The equation isn't just quite what the public's been led to believe, that this electric vehicle thing is our salvation. It really isn't. And if you are open-minded and can think on your own, if you study this article, I think you'll get a better indication of what's really going on. I'm going to wrap it up there. This is David Morgan of themorganreport.com for another weekly perspective. I'll be back with you next week.